What's up, everyone? Kaiju no Kami here with
Silver Quill, and like the Doctor, this isn't even my final form.
I have come to a conclusion I don't exist any longer.
What is your name? Did you forget?
Oh, I've come to a conclusion I don't exist anymore. Cruellica Kain.
Okay, and we are going to be talking about season or series 12 of Doctor Who.
Oh, the Dirty Dozen.
The season where the Doctor needs to just turn the TARDIS from being a police box into a dumpster on fire.
Ouch. I will say, I have checked out a lot of the YouTube videos on the season finale. The vitriol is palatable. I can... that's some good anger. Is it palatable or palpable? I forget.
Palatable.
Palatable.
And yet, but according to BBC, Doctor Who is the best it's ever been. Our international partners are happy, and Chris Chibnall has said that Doctor Who is not a democracy. I'm going to write the show I want to write. I don't care what anyone thinks.
Okay, to be fair, a creator has a right to what they believe in with their creation. However, they also have to respect the audience, because without the audience, you have no show. And to tell a good story, I'm a believer that to tell a good story, it is a community effort. Especially if it's something acted on screen. Yes, with a book you can't say the true community effort, but no book is written solely alone, because there's other people reading it, proofing it, giving criticisms, giving feedback. So any creation out there in existence is a community effort. We even watched your videos at least 2-3 times before they're released to the world.
They watch my videos and help me spot the errors in flash frames.
Absolutely. We watch your videos all the time, which I love watching your videos, because I'm like, so this is where he's going. And I always think when I watch either of your videos, either to QA it, or even after it's been released to the world, I always love watching the reaction, because that is what helps motivate and guide to the next step. And for a creator to say this is not a democracy is to disregard the fandom, to disregard the people who are truly connected to it. And I'm not saying that things can't change. Some of the things in this series, I'm okay with. I don't like them, but I've resigned myself. But at the same time, I do believe change has to occur. As long as it's good and it makes sense.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, okay, I understand when people are like, well, this adds new mythos to Doctor Who to explore in further seasons. That's fine. But if you're going to totally do a retcon and stuff, you need to have the writing to back it up. And you need to have an entire backstory already set up in a book or something in your mind to go forward with this. Like when DC decided to destroy the multiverse in the 80s with Crisis on Infinite Earths, they didn't just decide, you know what, we're going to destroy the whole multiverse and start over. They planned it out. They got their best writers at the time to do the series, and that's how they did it. This is basically the equivalent of New 52, where, oh, we're just going to reboot the universe because we want to make something new, and we've got way too much confusion going on.
See, in my eyes, they haven't really expanded the mythos. They've, in fact, removed a great deal of it.
That, I will agree with that. And now, if you compare it to the Ponyverse,
My Little Pony, My Little Doctor.
So thinking about, like, My Little Pony, what I grew up with in the 80s.
This is causing him physical pain.
It wasn't like the series had an in-depth plot. It was just to sell little pretty fluorescent or pally horses. Actually, and if you ever get a chance, watch on Netflix the Toys That Made Us for My Little Pony, because watching the shade that they all throw at each other for these horses is actually beyond hilarious.
Well, it actually ties into what you said, nothing is created by one person.
Well, exactly. There's so much there, And when it was the original cartoon show, it wasn't like there was a huge plot. You had characters, you had singular stories, you didn't have an overarching plot. So by the time we got to what we have now, with Friendship is Magic, I know there's more coming, but at least just with Friendship is Magic, when I first watched it, I'm like, okay, this is not at all what I remembered from my childhood.
All right.
Because the ponies were so different, and they had so much more personality. There were some people who did not appreciate it for what it was, because it was not our My Little Pony. Kind of like with the whole remake of He-Man. It was not our He-Man. And I think some people had that gut reaction to the new Doctor.
Though in fairness, I mean, there are some people who look at Thundercats Roar and they don't like it because this is not good.
But with My Little Pony, how do you feel? Because it actually kind of equates to Doctor Who in a simplistic terms.
Okay.
You have a new series coming up.
There is a new series coming up, but I was aware of My Little Pony in my childhood as sort of an ancillary satellite series. For me, Transformers and seeing...
Okay, fair.
Now, if you want to talk about developing a mythos...
Beast Wars?
Beast Wars was a key part of it and has gone forward, but actually, the UK comics have had a big part in this. And the American comics. So many of the ideas that have evolved and become staples of Transformers came from the comics.
Yes.
Unicron as a dark god, Primus the creator. These are givens in modern Transformers. These were not present in G1. The Spark, which has further evolved to explain how Transformers are born, that was introduced in Beast Wars. It's an evolving mythos, even though the universes are separate. Certain terms become consistent. Then, if you were suddenly say, if you were to have a Transformers series that said, oh yeah, sparks are a lie, programmed by our real creators, the humans, or some twist like that, I think people would react very negatively because you are now throwing out what has been built up over time. And I would say sometimes subverting your expectations or going against the grain, doing that for its own sake doesn't work as well as you'd like to think. Not you specifically.
Yeah, no, but just in general.
Well,
you or the ethereal.
Oh, well, the other thing is, it like brings a problem with, like, okay, we have, oh, the Doctor's grave is on Transalore. Well, clearly, clearly not, because the Doctor can never die. Oh, well, the Doctor. So it's like, okay, why did the Doctor need a new regeneration cycle from the Time Lords? Why did they say in the Three Doctors Omega created was the reason the Time Lords were created? Why, in the Three Doctors, when they said we need to pull the earliest incarnation of the Doctor, it was Hartnell's version of the Doctor. Then there's also, we saw the Doctor as a child in Listen, when Clara goes to his farmhouse and meets him as a kid.
Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate. I think with these revelations, you could argue we need the earliest version of the Doctor, and Hartnell was the first the Doctor.
No, because
not the timeless child.
But because the other Ruth was calling herself the Doctor, that predates.
Which means she was just really full of herself. I don't know. Okay, I hear what you're saying. Part of me is worried about going down continuity. What I mean to say is that people can argue the merits of this alteration and addition, because one of the things I was thinking about was the introduction of the War Doctor. A Doctor we'd never seen before but was there. I felt that was done more naturally than this.
Yes, I do agree, because the War Doctor aspect was, I feel like I'm using this term so often, authentic. It felt truly connected to the narrative, because when we get to Chris Eccleston's Doctor, after we have McGann's, or even McCoy, if we go with just regular television series, even though McGann is technically a Doctor, TV series universe, McCoy, whimsical, a positive experience with the Doctor. Even McGann, a positive, whimsical still, even though he's a strong Doctor. By the time you get to Eccleston, it's almost a very night and day difference between those two separate universes, because he is brash, he's arrogant, and yes, arrogance has always existed, but he was much darker in his presentation. And yeah, you can say that's based on how the culture was at that current time, but you get the same thing with Tennant. He's also very dark, very, you feel like he has witnessed some terrible shit, and
well, just look at what he did. Just look at what he does to the family of blood.
Well, exactly.
Oh.
So you go down that lane because all the prior doctors, outside of Tom Baker, and even Tom Baker wasn't that bloodthirsty, so to speak. No,
that's what he had Leela for.
They had their limitations. And then when you see Ruth in this version of the Doctor, which personally, in certain elements, I was actually kind of excited because it was nice to see a different incarnation of the Doctor, even if she were not to fit in that timeline. It was kind of cool because we had that one guy who said he was the Doctor because he got all the Doctor's memories.
Oh, the next Doctor.
The next Doctor. So I kind of thought of it like that.
I also have to say, I think she did a better job of the Doctor than Jodie has done.
I'm not been against Jodie's presentation of the Doctor. The writing is where I have the real problem.
Well, the problem is she hasn't, except for in the Witchfinder General from the last season, and Spyfall, she really hasn't had anything to distinguish herself as the Doctor compared to other people. Like, they even had that problem with Capaldi. He didn't really have too much, but he still has Heaven Sent.
But for me, Capaldi was that speech. I do what I do because it's right, because it's decent, and it's kind.
Well, there's that, and there was the whole thing with the Zygon two-parter when he had his whole speech to them about it.
But I also think what helped for him is he had Clara. Because Clara, a character like Clara, who was the exact opposite of what he was playing. Because when he was whimsical, she was strong. When he was weaker, she held him up. When he became bloodthirsty and dark, she became the kindness that he needed.
And the opposite, when she became desperate, he
became that like sturdy rod that helped her stay the course.
Although a lot of people don't like Clara because of the impact she had at him during her exit.
I will agree, but I personally have to say, you need that in the companion. Because Rose was like that for Eccleston and Tennant's first season. Martha was that great, like, sadly, rebound girl, but she still had that connection with him. And when he had so much loss for Tennant, Donna was that perfect...
Donna.
My favorite companion. She was that best friend who knew what he needed, provided that companionship, truthfully, and you had it with Amy. You had it with Rory. And I feel like for this particular Doctor, one, I'm not saying a character has to be written solely male, solely female. However, all of the male Doctors have been given a defining feature that you can connect with. I don't feel like she has been given a defining feature. I feel like she is written still as a man. Like, because truthfully, outside of a gender occasionally, you could throw any actor or actress in there. It would still be the same type of script.
Well, I'm going to quote SF Debris here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God.
Sorry. There's nothing so sexist as a man trying to be a feminist.
I agree.
Because the narrative that is unfolded about the production is that why am I saying blank his name? Gibbet? Who's the head writer? Chibnall. Like their friend. Chibnall, the narrative around his run as head writer and showrunner is that he was pursuing an agenda over the story. Now, I believe that a story and a goal or message can work in tandem. But right now, the story is subservient to the agenda.
Well, look at Orphan 55 and Proxius.
Oh.
Both episodes in this season, so that's 2 out of 10 episodes, are all, we suck as a race, we're destroying the environment, you need to fix it. But the problem is, we, the normal people, we know what we're doing. We're trying to fix it. But we're not the ones causing the problem. It's the corporations causing the problem. They don't care what we think. So their message in these 2 episodes get lost because we already know what they're trying to say. So all it's doing is trying to push it down our throats, and where they should be aiming at the corporations. But the corporations are like, well, we don't care.
But they're also not written in a manner where it feels like you can stand up and talk to the powers that be and say, I know what's wrong, please do something.
Like, okay.
Well, let him talk. He's been trying to talk for 5 minutes.
Oh, not quite that long, I think.
It's
but
5 seconds.
I do want to say, though, that 2 out of 10 is, funny enough, the score most people are giving this season.
But, okay, so per tweet, we just watched 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
An episode called, a story called The Green Death, which was an environmental story where this corporation were putting contaminated barrel waste underground, which ended up causing maggots to grow large. And there were these environmentalists that were trying to say that we've got this idea for this solar power where we create this windmill that will create the power and it will save the environment. And the corporation guy was like, nope, nope, nope. We're going to do it this way because coal is the future. And it did it without throwing it down, shoving it down your throats. And it did it really well. Whereas all these series now, it's like they have to keep going, push it, push it, push it.
Well, and the one amazing thing about that particular thing, and I think this is the most impactful, what you said about them being able to work in tandem, is this story was written in 1973. So one, that shows that it's been a consistent problem for almost
40 years.
Over 40 years.
Yeah.
And then it shows that something from 1973 has held up so well as a story-making device that it was completely enjoyable from start to finish, where for these particular stories, I can honestly say I have no interest in ever going out of my way to watch them again.
And we've been talking about Whitaker's Doctor. We haven't talked about The Fan.
Well, that's a challenge with the whole Doctor aspect. Because, one, I've actually have to say I was always eager to see more companions because I always thought it would be cool. I can actually say
Adric.
3 is too many.
There's a reason Adric died.
Is that really it?
Yeah, remember Tegan, Adric, and Nisa?
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't work with 3.
I thought it was because Adric was
annoying,
very bratty.
Well, there was that too.
But okay, I remember Yaz,
Ryan, and Graham.
Okay. Graham is just sort of there. He's the comic relief as far as I can tell. But then there's that heartfelt moment where he admits he's afraid of his cancer coming back. And the doctor...
Who ignores it, is like, oh, was I supposed to say something?
She has a sonic screwdriver. She could wave it over him and say, Graham, this says there's absolutely no chance. Or, if anything should happen, this will let me know. I've got your back.
Well,
she could lie, even if it's just to make him feel better. But the fact she says nothing is like, wow, that's really likable.
And it takes away from Matt Smith. Because during the time when Amy was acting very, very strange, he kept on testing her to see what was going on. And that's where you found out, like, the pregnancy, non-pregnancy, pregnancy, non-pregnancy.
When he found out that she was one of those blob humans.
Yeah,
things.
He cared so much. He kept track of her health because it was a concern for him. Because he truly thought of her as family. I think this whole fam thing, and I think that's the only genuine thing that they're playing on the whole female aspect. Because on the male aspect, think of our group. We're, for the 2 of you, Advent, Chrysalid,
her reverse harem.
The 4 of you gentlemen all think of yourselves as really good friends. I make the comment, we're like a family. Because women, and I'm not saying this universally, but more often than not, women go on that nurturer, that family units. It's all about being connected as a family, where on the male side of things, it's all about community and friendship, not specifically family, because on the male side of things, family means blood. Where on the female side of things, family tends to mean togetherness. That's why women are sisters and things like that. It's because of that connection. And so that I've respected because that is a very feminine viewpoint. Because Yaz sees it as well. Ryan, just like a typical guy, is like, okay, I'll go along with it. But the reason I think Graham sees it is because of his connection with his wife who passed away. There's been so much adjustment and everything. It's his way to still connect with others.
Now, I will say Ryan probably is the least compelling character because I don't know what he wants anymore. His defining trait last season was him resisting accepting Graham as part of his family. And now that that's been resolved, he's really got no goals.
Well, that and avoiding his actual dad.
Well, they touched on that, but then in the episode where the dude is putting his fingers in everyone's ear the wrong way, he didn't even go to see his dad when they got back to Earth. That says something. But Yaz, I'm afraid that this is, again, the agenda overstepping. Her key defining traits are her heritage and the fact that she's been bullied for being a woman. She has no personal conflict.
No.
She has social conflicts. And I'm not saying that you can't have those as part of your identity and struggle with them, but let me ask you something. If suddenly everyone stopped being sexist and everyone stopped being racist, what would Yaz's personal conflict be?
It would be nothing. Because she has nothing that truly defines her.
Yeah, but Ryan's also the same way.
Not to the same degree.
He still has his familial tensions. And also, he's the least mature of the group.
Whereas the first season, I will say that was kind of one of the nice things about the Rosa Parks episode, is they did play upon the racism aspect. Because Ryan was obviously the lone man out there because Yaz, while she is a darker skin
Well, remember,
tone,
they kept calling her Mexican.
Yes, because...
But Ryan the doctor is still an advocate of nonviolence. Ryan got to shoot a racist back in time. Now, tell me right now if you didn't think that sounds awesome.
Well, yeah, no, that was...
But
I think she is... The one thing that she's doing that kind of Capaldi did, and I feel bad for comparing doctors between themselves because you want a doctor to be able to stand on their own. But I just don't think she can. The violent tendencies that she has really reminds me of Capaldi. Because Capaldi, of all the doctors, I think was the most open and prone to violence.
He shot a fellow Time Lord. Sure, he knows he's going to regenerate. But that's part of what people dislike about Clara. She drove him to murder. But okay, that actually raises a point. So much of the Doctor in this new era has been about his conflicting emotions with the Time Lords. He resents their culture for their pride and their atrocious actions, and yet he laments that he was the one to destroy them, and in time was trying very hard to find them, to save them. And there was this question of where do the Doctor and the Time Lords go from here?
Well, and I think in his failing, that's probably what Chibnall was trying to do, is that definitive line of the Doctor is not actually a Time Lord, and she's actually the birther of the Time Lords to what they are currently.
I'm sorry, but parting ways is one thing, but Chibnall went very much out of his way to say they're all dead. I've turned them into Cybermen. I just wiped them out with a gene bomb.
Oh no, he went to the nth degree of destroying a lot of the culture, even from the previous series.
Here's the thing with that. One, why we even have brought the Time Lords back in Smith's era just to wipe them all out again. Two, how did the Master kill all the Time Lords, stop them from regenerating, but freeze their bodies so he could put them into Cybermen, and then they can regenerate again inside the Cybermen bodies?
I could actually offer several theories, but that's more me creating the story than the show.
Exactly. And then also, there's the problem of the Doctor can't bring herself to kill the Master with the bomb she's got in her hands. But she has no problem letting an old man blow himself up when she's immortal.
people were airing clips of David Tennant rescuing Donna's father from the radiation. You know, the father was willing to make the sacrifice for the doctor, and he was
the grandfather, yeah.
The grandfather. And he was like, no, it's been an honor. And he takes the hit. Then they show Whitaker's doctor running out and giving a thumbs up to martyrdom.
Well,
let's be honest, the doctor has let people make the save in the past. In fact, many of the Doctor's season finales, like with Bad Wolf, have been someone else stepping up to live up to the Doctor's example. We don't have that here because this fellow hardly interacted with the Doctor.
He hardly interacted with her, and his backstory was so flimsy to really feel like he got a redemption, or he got like his...
I'm owed, so it's okay.
And the cyber controller...
That was
so wasteful, because we get him in the Frankenstein episode. We're like, oh, you get a Cyberman because he's got half his face. You can see a personality. He's got, okay, cool. You can really do something with this guy. Next episode, okay, they're going somewhere with him. Then the third part, like the Master turns around and shrinks. Is like, oh, that's.
I thought the cyber controller and the Doctor were good antagonists to one another. The Master, he is also a good antagonist. I will say he was enjoyable. Watching him celebrate his wickedness.
This guy is doing the Master in this season. He's really good at it. It's just he's getting shit material to work with.
Like, I do like the Master. I actually thought it kind of reminded me of a little bit between modern and classic Master. Mm-hmm. Just how he acted, because he was very eccentric. He was very crazed in his planning. And then when he dealt with just the different elements of how he handled convincing another race, because that's the one thing I always find beautiful about the Master, is he convinces another species to do his dirty work, and it's fascinating to watch, because where the Doctor has to really work and work and work and work to convince somebody not to do bad, so to speak, the Master just has this je ne sais quoi, so to speak, that he convinced them very subtly without effort. Because think of the Cybermen. The Cybermen are binary, 0-1 capacity. But he still figured out a way to take that 0-1 capacity, in very bad writing, mind you, and still convince them.
0-1? That's how you know it's Cybermen! But it's true. Well, the Doctor's always trying to get folks to be their best selves. The Master is always eager to bring out the worst, because that's really quick and easy.
Well, one person did bring up a good point online. We just had Missy, not even basically 2 years ago, 2 seasons ago, has this whole redemption arc where she becomes good, and now she's back to being the ultimate evil.
Well, there's some people who say that this was a prior incarnation to Missy.
But right now we don't know.
I know.
So it does kind of, in some aspect, it does kind of throw out all the character development Missy had, just to redo this whole thing with the I'm evil type Master.
Although there is the question, what if the Master stole regenerations from the Time Lords he killed? And so maybe he's no longer suffering the regeneration limit himself.
Well, he wasn't before, because in the Classic Who, he actually got additional regenerations himself there.
Oh, and once again, we get into the issue of continuity. You raise a good point with the new old Doctor we met called herself the Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So how can the other guy be the Doctor?
She had a police box.
That's the biggest thing. You want to have this grand conspiracy that the Doctor hasn't always been the Doctor, and that there's a whole other life as the Time's Child. Okay, but what about the TARDIS? Why is the TARDIS a police box?
And also, what about when Clara tells the Doctor, don't steal that one, steal that one?
So, again, the TARDIS may in fact be the biggest continuity conflict I have. Plus, there's also, okay, they wiped the Doctor's mind. The TARDIS has been shown to be sentient, in a sense. Do they get like a supersized zapper headset and put it on the TARDIS?
Well, they said specifically in the first episode of the first series, and I'm not trying to comment on this, but it was the biggest pain point for me, is Hartnell specifically says the reason it's a police box is because they're everywhere in 1960s and 63 London, that it fit in where it didn't stick out like a sore thumb. And the reason why it's still a police box is because I think it
got stuck after a while.
After, I think, in Davison's era, because in Davison's era, it was able to still change.
Well, it could change in Colin Baker's too.
Oh yeah, it was some point, actually no, I think it was probably McCoy's era, that it got stuck as a police box, and it was a running joke that now it's a police box because I can't remember what it is. The chameleon circuit is broken.
Meanwhile, there's now another TARDIS out there disguised as a tree for the rest of eternity.
And there's one that's a house.
There's one that's a house. There's a lot of TARDISes out there.
Well, I do have to say that was the best thing about walking into the Master's house, is when you find out at some point that it's an actual TARDIS. I'm like, okay, this is what I think of for a TARDIS.
But yeah, it's actually proportional on the inside. What madness is this?
But yeah, it's a whole mess what they did. It really has killed the show for me. And this season, like, Spyfall started out really well. You had the Spyfall 2-parter, which was just fantastic. Then you had the Orphan 55 Planet Hotel Planet Place.
Polar opposite.
The Nikolai Tesla episode was pretty good. Then we had the Fugitive of the Jadoon one, where the Jadoon where they were chasing the Doctor and everything.
Which Doctor? Which
also makes a question. Okay, if the Doctor has been a fugitive from the Jadoon for the last decades, why didn't they arrest the Doctor back when he first interacted with Martha in the hospital?
Again, continuity. You could have like hours and hours of arguments about this.
But with that episode, pointless Jack cameo because he served no purpose.
Well, I was going to say, what was the point of having Jack in this series?
Clearly shot after production of the episode.
Because his message, one, it was cliche, but saying, okay, tell the Doctor not to give the Cybermen what he wants. Well, clearly it was pointless because she did exactly what the Cybermen wanted. Secondly, he never even actually did anything because the only reason he was there was to give the message, but then he never actually accomplished that. So his entire purpose was...
Mostly because he kept making side remarks.
And then we had... so then next was the episode with the birds.
The Boyds.
Then you had the episode with the guy with the dreams, which was cool in concept, I felt, but it should have been a 2-parter.
Although, what does it say when your opponents are two malicious gods, and they're not the season finale enemy?
Well, considering the Doctor is a god at this point.
Well, okay, I will admit, I'm kind of curious, will they explore where this timeless child really came from?
I don't care. And then what was my favorite episode, if I count the episodes as standalone, what was my favorite episode was the Frankenstein one with Mary Shelley and Percy and all that. Because it had the really cool camera work, it had atmosphere, it had suspense, it had tension.
Mystery.
It was all horror-based. The Cyberman was cool based on what he was going on at that time. He was creepy the way they did it because of the atmosphere. And then the last 2 episodes happened. And it just went shark, 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 shark.
Man, I haven't seen that much since Shark Week.
Or Sharknado.
Oh yes, more flying sharks than Sharknado.
But yeah, and the companions had nothing to work with again this season. The Chibnall just doesn't know how to write them. What was the other thing that...
Well, I personally think the only reason that Spyfall was so well done is because it played to Chibnall's strengths as a writer. Because he's been a successful writer for a show called Broadchurch. And I've heard nothing but good things about this particular series, which he was the head writer and producer of. And it's that mystery kind of cop show type thing. And David Tennant and Jodie Whittaker both starred in this show. So there were a lot of I think that's why
David
those
Tennant?
were. Yeah, he was in that show.
Because wasn't Capaldi in that show too?
I think a lot of Doctor Who people were in that show.
But, well, and I think the problem is that Chibnall just doesn't really care about Doctor Who. He just took the job because, oh, it's Doctor Who, okay.
Well, I'm not going to say he doesn't care because I don't know that for a fact.
Right now, I feel like he's prioritizing one viewpoint over Doctor Who and its legacy and its importance to all people. And maybe that's the big thing. No matter... Okay, I'm not against a female doctor in any way. But the Doctor has always been driven by caring. Surprisingly, for an alien who is nigh immortal, she, the Doctor, has always been the most human, the most passionate about the human emotions. I'm not sure the Doctor has gotten to show that very much in this last season. I did appreciate... Okay, I had mixed assertions with the Frankenstein episode. The assertion that art matters, I will wholeheartedly endorse that. At the same time, the Doctor was trying to protect someone based on their utility to time, rather than their human, or it's a life. The Doctor's never really the Doctor's actually celebrated people who the larger culture would dismiss as mundane. The episode where Rose saves her father, and the Doctor is talking to a young couple about to get married. He expresses this adoration of their lives, his appreciation of these amazing things that happen in these short spans. The brilliance of just being human. Whereas Whittaker was, unfortunately, her Doctor was arguing based on the popularity and impact of this one person and the fame, not necessarily just how wonderful you are just to be you. The Doctor's always appreciated that, and right now, Whittaker hasn't had a chance to express that sentiment.
Well, the Doctor for me, as an entity, has always meant taking the high road. Being more than you can be. Because all the companions that have connected with the Doctor over the course of all the series, you've always felt like they have become better people based on the opportunity that they've had with the Doctor. Not just going to foreign worlds or foreign times, but just being in that presence of someone who has given them the chance to see more than what exists for the natural order.
That's because, as we know now, they've been traveling with a god.
Okay, well, stop with that. We're trying to actually look at it as a positive manner. And
they were enlightened.
Okay, will you stop?
No, the Doctor showed them a great deal of horrors as well.
Well, yes. And I'm not saying that it's always a positive experience, but think of, well, for example, think of Rose. When we are first introduced to Rose, she is that young, immature girl, even during the first few episodes of being with the Doctor, because she even leaves her boyfriend in the dust the moment she finds something better. She's a very immature 19-year-old who has not looked at her consequences. And it was really by the time we got to that episode where she is saving her father, or trying to save her father, that she sees the consequences for her actions. And yeah, it's her dad at the point who says, if I'm supposed to die, then we need to make this right, and commits the act himself. It's still her having to witness and own that there are dire consequences to every action you have.
Until she herself becomes godlike.
And then, there was another one I thought of with all this continuity errors. Why did River have to give up all her regenerations then for him?
Wasted effort, perhaps. One could argue the Time Lords it has been the best lie they've ever perpetuated. Again, I'm playing devil's advocate here.
There's always this hope. Obviously, for the next season when it comes out, I don't feel like I'm going to rush right out and watch it.
I don't even want to.
I'll let a few episodes pile up.
Same here. I would do the same. there's always that hope that they will legitimately look at the criticism and find a way to dig themselves out of the hole they made.
The only way they can do that is by having it turn out the Master totally lied to her just to screw with her.
Well, they've said that before in previous, even in earlier season. The Master lies.
That's the only way they can fix this, is that the Master lied to her.
Oh, I thought of one other thing, because the Doctor lies, and he's told that to his companions. For a group, all three of them knew something was up, but they never really supported her. They were always like, oh, she's not telling us, okay. Very passive companions in that regard.
Well, there's that, and the other thing I did have a problem with is, most of this season, okay, the Doctor just found out her home's destroyed. Oh, but we're not going to bring it up for another few episodes. Then, oh, the Doctor finds out that there's another version of her she doesn't know about. And there's a message from Jack. Oh, but we're not going to worry about that for the next few episodes. Like, what?
How long have we been talking about this?
Probably 45 minutes.
I've noticed that the YouTube videos I've watched in reaction to this all run on the long side. It is very easy to get swept up in talking about every single thing you don't like about this.
Well, yeah, I think, with that said, it probably would be safe to wrap this up, because now we're just going to ramble and we're going to nitpick.
Well, okay, the good. Villa horror at Villa haunting at Villa Diodata. That was the episode. Now that I can finally say it.
The Irish Sun story in the first part of this finale, even though we learned it had a different meaning later, it was really well done, and it's weird. I actually found a bond with this young adopted kid.
I do agree with that one. Another good thing for me was that, as much as people argued it and it might not necessarily work, it was appreciated to see them try to take a risk and bring something new to the mythology. Good, bad, or otherwise, with a long-running series, if you just go on the historical mythos and just revert to that, and simply, we're not going to let you have a chance to talk because we'd go on for another hour.
But that's the problem.
Well, the thing is, you need to try something new occasionally, because if you don't try anything new, you're going to become stagnated.
Yes, but that's my point, though. This show, this is the problem. This is what happens when a show goes on way too long.
Okay, we're moving on. So, final thought about the series.
Season.
Or season, or whatever.
For some people, it is the series.
Yes.
I will always celebrate the Doctor for the fact that he values life, and because he understands that it's fleeting. I hope that future Doctors won't lose this message.
I agree. I think for me, the final thought would be, I'm not going to say it's the last episode I watch, because I may try to see how it goes, especially because we do have a Christmas special that will be airing, obviously, much later this year.
With Daleks.
And it's Graham and Ryan's final episode.
I do hope that if they do continue, they will continue, but I do hope with the continuation that they consider the community. As we started with this video, I think the safe way to end with this video is anything creatively done is a team effort, a community effort with everyone involved. I'm not saying that 100% weight should be given to the audience and they choose how it's done, because we've seen the failures when that occurs as well, when shows continue another season because the fans demanded it. However, looking at another show real quick, Lucifer, it got canceled because the ratings were going down. Not because the fans didn't like it, it was just, it kept on changing times. The fans demanded a return, it came back on Netflix, and is more popular than ever.
Well, the final season hasn't even aired yet, and now it's no longer the final season because they've ordered a 6th season.
But
one can only hope Constantine gets that.
So, kind of going to that degree, you hope that the community can all work together on it, and it's not just sponsorship led. For your final thought, I want one word, and one word only, so we don't spend an hour.
I need 3 words.
Fine, 3 words.
Praise God, Doctor. Zig, God, Doctor.
Oh, no, don't.
Okay, we're not going to continue there.
Okay, fine. One word, dog shit.
All right, fine. So that is our video, because the reason I'm ending this is because of him. For Doctor Who Series 12, I think, whatever. It's the current season, it just finished. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you have enjoyed it, along with all the other complaining videos about Doctor Who, and we'll see you next time. Bye!
Bye-bye!